The Tuesday started like any other Tuesday. Gray light filtered through the blinds, promising another outcast Calgary day. The familiar scent of stale coffee grounds lingered from yesterday's pot. I padded into the kitchen, my bare feet cold against the worn lintel. Routine at this point. That's basically what my life had become since the layoff. A series of comfortable, predictable routines designed to fill the empty hours and keep the low triumph of anxiety at bay. Make coffee, check emails, which mostly is spam, scroll through news feeds filled with distant disasters and local trivialities. Nothing wild, nothing too exciting, I would say. My apartment, usually my sanctuary, felt a little bit too quiet today. It was a stranded two-bedroom on the third floor of a nondescript building overlooking a quiet residential street. Trees, mostly bare now in the late autumn chill, line the sidewalk. Across the way, Miss Henderson prize-winning roses were just withering stalks at this point. Normal, safe, boringly safe. That's essentially what my life was at this point. I was halfway through my second cup of coffee, staring blankly at the pixelated faces of online strangers when my landline rang. The sound was jarring, as my landline usually never rang. I only kept it for emergencies, and bundled it with my internet that I can barely afford at this point. Nobody ever called it. My parents used my cell, my few remaining friends likewise. Hesitantly, I picked up the receiver. Hello? Silence for a beat, then a voice, electronically distorted like a poorly synthesized recording, but unnervingly present. It was low, genderless, and chillingly calm. Alexander Davis, apartment 3B. Do you know why I'm calling you at this point? My blood ran cold. How did he know my name, my apartment number? Who is this? What do you want? My voice trembled slightly. That doesn't matter, Alexander. What does matter is that you listen very carefully. At this point, I want you to stand up and look right outside of your living room window towards the Gables house. The blue one with the peeling paint? You see it, don't you? You know what I'm talking about. My heart hammered against my ribs. A prank call, maybe? A very elaborate, targeted prank? Against my better judgment, compelled by dread, I couldn't explain, but I walked up to the living room window, phone pressed hard against my ear. I parted the blinds just enough to peek through it. The blue house sat innocently across the street, but nothing seemed amiss. I see it, I whispered, but what about it? Notice the chimney, the voice instructed. Notice the small glint. I squinted. At first, I saw nothing but bricks and sky, then a tiny flash of reflecting light, almost imperceptible, like sunlight hitting glass or polished metal. There is somebody watching you, Alexander, the voice continued, its calm tone somehow more terrifying than shouting would have been. Somebody with a high-powered rifle and excellent aim. They can see you right now, peering through your blinds. I instinctively recoiled, stumbled back from the window, yanking the blind shut. My breath came in ragged gasps. What? Okay, what do you want? Money? I don't have much. I don't want your pathetic savings, Alexander. What I do want is your compliance. If you attempt to leave your apartment, you will be shot. If you attempt to call for help, the police, friends, or anybody, you will be shot. If you try to signal from your window or balcony, you will be shot. Do you understand what I'm telling you? But why? The question felt stupid, small, against the enormity of the threat. Reasons are irrelevant, Alexander. Obedience is everything. For today, your task is simple. Go to your bookshelf and find the oldest book that you have, the one that means the most to you. My mind raced. That would be the worn copy of Watership Down. My father's copy, the one he read to me countless times as a child. Its pages were soft, yellowed, marked with his annotations. I think I know which one. Good. Now take it to the kitchen sink, and I want you to set it on fire. What? No, I can't. The protest ripped from my throat. It felt like being asked to burn a piece of my own past, a piece of my father. You can, Alexander, and you will, or the first bullet goes through your leg. Painful, messy, but survivable. But the second won't be. You have 5 minutes, Alexander. The line clicked dead. 5 minutes. Panic seized me. This couldn't be real. It had to be a bluff, a sick joke. But the glint, the specificity, my apartment number, my name. I ran to the front door, hand hovering over the deadbolt. Could I make it down the stairs? Out the main entrance? The sniper, if there was a sniper, couldn't cover every single angle now, could they? Then I pictured it. The doors swinging open, the sharp crack echoing down the hallway, then suddenly searing pain, or worse, instant darkness. I looked at my cell phone, lying inert on the coffee table. Should I risk it? A quick text to 911? The voice had been so certain, though. Any attempt, and I would be shot. My eyes darted back to the bookshelf, to the faded green spine of Watership Down. Tears welled. It was just a book, an object. My life was on the line, wasn't it? With trembling hands, I pulled the book from the shelf. Its familiar weight felt alien, profane in its context. I carried it to the kitchen as if carrying a condemned soul. The stainless sink gleamed under the harsh fluorescent light. My hand shook so violently I could barely operate the lighter that I had kept for the gas stove. The corner of the cover caught first, curling inward, turning black. Then the pages, reluctantly at first, then catching with a soft whoosh. The smell of burning paper and glue filled the small kitchen, my father's familiar handwriting warping and disappearing into the heat. Each flicker of the flame felt like a lash against my soul. When the last ember died, leaving but a fragile black skeleton in the sink, I felt hollowed out, violated. But then the phone rang once again, almost immediately. I answered, my voice choked, whispered. It's done. Good, the distorted voice said. Very good, Alexander. That is all for today, Alexander. Do not try anything foolish. I will call tomorrow with your next task. Click. The phone disconnected. The rest of the day passed on in a blur of fear and disbelief. I paced the confines of my apartment, a prisoner in my own home, it felt. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant siren, every car door slamming on the street outside sent jolts of adrenaline through me. I kept the blinds tightly shut, plunging the apartment into a glooming twilight. I tried the internet, but it was dead. The cable TV, nothing but static. My cell phone displayed no service, no matter where I stood in the home. He'd cut everything, but how? Sleep was impossible. Every time I drifted off, the image of the burning book or the imagined glint of the sniper scope snapped me right awake. Was this real? Was I maybe losing my mind at this point? Wednesday dawned, just as gray as Tuesday. The silence in the apartment was heavier now, changed with anticipation. I ate my dry cereal, huddled on the sofa, staring at the blank TV screen. And the phone rang precisely at 10 a.m. Good morning, Alexander. The voice chirped, sickeningly pleasant. Did you sleep well? I didn't answer. No matter. Today's task requires a little commitment. I want you to go to the bathroom and find your razor. My stomach churned. I used disposable razors, cheap plastic things. But why does he want them? I have it. Excellent. Now I want you to shave your head. All of it. My hair? It seemed absurd, almost anticlimactic after the book. Then the humiliation sunk in, the stripping away of identity. Every last strand, Alexander. You have 1 hour to accomplish this, and remember, I am watching. Any hesitation, any deviation will be met with consequences. The threat hung in the air, unspoken but potent. The phone clicked thereafter. Again, the internal battle. It is just hair. It will eventually grow back, but it felt like another piece of me being chipped away, another boundary violated. I stood before the bathroom mirror, staring at my reflection. Ordinary brown hair already thinning slightly at my temples. Nothing remarkable, but it was mine. It was who I am. Slowly, mechanically, I had begun. The cheap razor scraped awkwardly against my scalp, catching and pulling. It took forever. Clumps of hair fell into the sink, mingling with the shaving foam. There was no hot water. He had cut that too. The cold water made my scalp ache. By the time I had finished, my head was pretty patchy, red, in fact, and raw, dotted with small nicks and beads with blood. I looked alien, vulnerable, stripped bare. This isn't me. This isn't what I am. I rinsed my stinging scalp, avoiding my own gaze in the mirror. The reflection wasn't me anymore. It was someone cowed, broken. The phone didn't ring immediately this time. The silence stretched, amplifying my anxiety. Had I done it wrong? Had I taken too long? Was the shot coming? I huddled in the hallway, away from the windows, heart pounding. Finally, hours later, near dusk, the phone rang once again. "Acceptable, Alexander," was all the voice had said before disconnecting. It is now Thursday. The demand came earlier this time, just after 8 a.m. My nerves were frayed beyond repair. I hadn't eaten properly now in 2 days. "Alexander," the voice was flat, devoid of inflection. "Today you will demonstrate pain tolerance. I want you to go to your kitchen stove." I was already shaking. Why do you want me to do that?" "Alexander, I want you to turn on the front left burner. Gas or electric, it does not matter, but I do want you to turn it to high." I did as I was told. The click of the gas igniter unnaturally loud in the silence. A blue flame sprang to life. "Now, Alexander, I want you to place your left hand, palm down, flat on the burner." "Wait, no. Please, I can't. That's insane." Panic clawed at my throat. This wasn't symbolic. This wasn't humiliation. This was just agony, permanent damage. 5 seconds, Alexander. Hold it there for 5 seconds. If you pull away before I say stop, the consequences will be severe. Remember the glint, Alexander? Do you remember your leg? Or perhaps you prefer a shot through the window right now? Quick, simple, over. Tears streamed down my face. 5 seconds, an eternity. I looked at my hand, my lifeline to the world. The hand I used to type, to eat, to live. The blue flame danced hypnotically. "Do it now, Alexander. The clock is ticking." I closed my eyes, took a shuddering breath, and slammed my palm down onto the cast iron grating just above the flame. The heat was instantaneous, ferocious, in fact, searing. My nerves screamed. The smell of burning flesh filled my nostrils. I bit down on my lips so hard that I tasted blood, stifling the shriek that threatened to tear out of me. 1, the voice counted, agonizingly slow. Pain, blinding, all-consuming pain, that is all I felt right now. 2, my whole body convulsing. I wanted to snatch my hand back, douse it in cold water, run screaming into the street, sniper be damned. 3, the world narrowed to a white-hot agony radiating up my arm. 4, just 1 more second, I could make it. Or maybe I couldn't, maybe this was it. And 5, stop. I ripped my hand away, stumbling back, cradling it to my chest. My palm was a mess, angry red, blistering already, the skin tight and shiny. The pain was nauseating, overwhelming as a matter of fact. I staggered to the sink, running cold water immediately over it, gasping through the waves of agony. The phone was silent. No confirmation, no further instruction, just the throbbing torment of my hand and the echoing silence of my prison. I woke on the floor sometime deep in the blackness of a Thursday night or the grey dawn of Friday. The throbbing agony in my left hand, a savage metronome counting out the seconds of my continued existence. My palm was a landscape of angry blisters, swollen tight, radiating heat like a furnace. Moving my fingers sent shards of glass tearing through my nerves. I managed to drag myself to the bathroom, splash cold water on my face, and choke down some painkillers I found in the cabinet, but they barely touched the edges of the pain. It was miserable. I felt delirious, feverish, and disconnected from the soiled, shrieking reality of my apartment. The shadows seemed deeper today, the silence more absolute, broken only by my own ragged breaths and occasional whimpers of pain. The phone rang just before noon on Friday. The sound ripped through the silence, making me cry out, a pathetic, wounded animal sound. I crawled towards it, my burned hand held uselessly against my chest, fumbling the receiver with my right hand. Alexander. The voice was flat, metallic, devoid of any emotion. It didn't ask how I was, it didn't acknowledge my previous day's horror. It simply proceeded. Alexander, today requires a greater sacrifice. A testament to your understanding of consequences. My blood ran cold, in fact, colder than the floor beneath my cheek. What could be worse than the searing agony of the burner, I thought to myself. Alexander, I want you to go to the dining room area, the voice commanded. You have that sturdy oak table, yes? The heavy one? Yes, I croaked, my throat dry. I want you to clear the space around it, right now. Dragging myself up, using the wall for support, I stumbled towards the small dining nook. My legs felt weak, trembling not just from the lack of food and sleep, but from the sheer, debilitating terror. I pushed the lightweight chairs aside with my good hand and my foot, clearing a small area on the floor. Good. The voice seemed to approve. Now, Alexander, I want you to climb onto the table that you had just cleared. Climb? It seemed absurd. What was this for? Alexander, I want you to do it right now, quickly. Using my good hand and my knees, hampered by the throbbing pain, I awkwardly managed to pull myself onto the heavy oak surface. I felt exposed and vulnerable, like a specimen laid out for examination. Stand up now, Alexander, carefully. I stood, swaying slightly, the ceiling feeling unnervingly close. Now, Alexander, the voice said, and for the first time I detected a feint of something. Not emotion, perhaps, but interest, like a scientist observing a crucial stage of an experiment. I want you to jump off the table, Alexander, but as you jump, I want you to land solely on your right leg, with your knee locked straight. Pull all the weight onto it, land hard. Do you understand? You need to break your leg, the tibia, the fibula, I don't care which, but I want you to make your leg snap. The roll tilted, bile rose in my throat. No, I won't, I can't. Anything else. Breaking my own leg, the thought alone was nauseating. Impossible, in fact. The pain would be immense, crippling. How could anybody do that to themselves? Alexander, you can do it, and you must. The voice stated, its calmness absolute. Consider the alternative, Alexander. A bullet is quick, perhaps, but maybe my associate is instructed to aim for your spine this time, leave you paralyzed, helpless on the floor until you expire from thirst. Or perhaps they'll just shoot your other hand. Then how would you manage, Alexander? Breaking the leg is your task at this point. If you fail, the consequences will escalate beyond your comprehension. You have 1 minute to jump. And the phone line disconnected thereafter. 1 minute to inflict crippling agony upon myself. I froze, standing on the table, shaking violently. My right leg felt suddenly alien, a target. I looked down on the floor. It seemed miles away. The image of bones shattering, the sound it would make. This was madness, I uttered. Complete and utter madness. But the alternative, the calm certainty of the voice, the memory of the glint, the searing pain in my hand, they were horrible. real. My breath came in short, sharp gasps. 30 seconds left, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Unless this was the only way. The pain would be binding, but maybe then it would stop. Maybe this ultimate act of submission would satisfy them. 10 seconds remain. My mind fractured. Survival instinct screamed, "No," while the voice's insidious logic whispered, "You must." With a choked sob that tore itself from my throat, I closed my eyes. I took a ragged breath and leaped. I forced my right leg straight, aiming for the hard floor, putting every ounce of my weight and force onto the fall. The impact was cataclysmic. A sickening crack echoed in the small room, instantly drowned out by my own agonizing shriek. Pain exploded in my lower leg, white-hot, blinding, and absolute. I collapsed in a heap, the world dissolving into a vortex of agony. My right leg lay beneath me at an unnatural angle, grotesquely bent below the knee. Stars burst behind my eyes. I think I blacked out for a moment, maybe even longer. When awareness returned, it was fragmented, filtered through layers of shock and excruciating pain. I was sprawled on the floor, unable to move, my broken leg sending waves of nausea through me with every pulsing beat. My burned hand throbbed in counterpoint. I was broken, literally. No call came this time, no confirmation needed. My screams must have been confirmation enough, assuming anybody was listening. Or perhaps the act itself was all that mattered. I lay there for hours, drifting in and out of consciousness, shivering uncontrollably, the pain relentless. Eventually, driven by thirst and the desperate need to reposition my shattered limb, I managed to drag myself inch by agonizing inch, using my elbows and my good leg towards the bathroom, leaving a trail of sweat and tears on the floor. The rest of Friday passed in a haze of pain, fever, and despair, so profound it felt like suffocation. Saturday had dawned, indistinguishable from the gray days that had preceded it, except for the landscape of my own personal hell having become significantly more brutal. I woke on the cold bathroom tiles, having managed to reach the water tap, but little else. My right leg was hideously swollen, the skin tight and discolored around my unnatural bend. Moving it by even a fraction of an inch sent jolts of agony through my entire body. My burned hand remained as swollen as ever, blistered, a mess. I was effectively crippled, trapped not just by my locks and threats, but by my own broken body. How much longer could this go on? The phone rang late in the afternoon, the sound making me jump so badly I cried out, jarring my broken leg and drawing a fresh wave of nausea. It took what felt like an eternity to drag myself, sobbing with pain and exertion, across the floor to the nearest phone extension, the one by the sofa to be exact. I fumbled for the receiver with my good hand, collapsing onto the carpet as I answered. "Alexander." The voice sounded almost bored. "Just one more thing from you. A final test of your resolve." I waited, numb, barely breathing, the agony in my leg and hand constant, roaring background noise. "I want you to go to your bedroom window, and I want you to open your blinds completely. Once the blinds are open, stand there. Or in your case, prop yourself up somehow. Be visible, perfectly still, for 1 minute. I want you, Alexander, look straight ahead, across the street." This was it, the execution. After all the torture, the psychological games, the burning, the breaking, this was the end. A clean shot. Given the state that I was in, it kind of felt like mercy. "Why?" I whispered, my voice ragged, rasp. "Why are you doing this?" "Curiosity, Alexander. Let's call it that. An experiment. Now, Alexander, I do want you to get to the window right now. You do have 5 minutes to comply. Considering your condition, I'm going to give you a bit more time, but I do not want you to disappoint me. Is that understood?" and the phone line disconnected. 5 minutes to drag my shattered body into the line of fire. It seemed an impossible task, but lying here waiting to die slowly from infection or starvation seemed a little bit worse. This was a way out, an end. Slowly gritting my teeth against the waves of pain, I began to move. Using my elbows and my good leg, I dragged myself towards the bedroom. Each movement sent bolts through my broken limb. The T-bowel bandage on my hand was filthy, soaked through with weeping fluid. My reflection in the darkened glass of a picture frame was horrifying. Bald, pale, streaked with grime and sweat. One hand crudely bandaged, one leg dragged uselessly behind me, eyes wide with a terror that had burned itself deep into my very soul. Reaching the bedroom window felt like summiting a mountain. My good hand reached for the cord, hesitated. This was suicide, positioning my broken body willingly in the crosshairs. But what was the alternative? Another day? Another demand? What could possibly be next? Gouge out an eye? Cut off a finger with my teeth? Live like this, a crippled puppet dancing on the strings of a madman until there was nothing left of me? I don't know. The book, my hair, my hand, my leg. He didn't just trap me physically. He invaded my mind, stripped me bare, burned and broken away my identity piece by painful piece. Living like this wasn't living. It was slow, agonizing erasure. Maybe the sniper wasn't even real. Ignoring the screaming pain in my leg, the throbbing furnace of my hand, I yanked the blinds up with my good arm. The gray afternoon light flooded in, absolutely blinding me for a moment. I propped myself against the window frame, leaning heavily on my left side, trying to keep my shattered right leg from bearing any weight. I faced the street, facing the blue house with the peeling paint, facing the potential trajectory of a bullet. The street below was mundane. A couple walked, a small dog on the sidewalk, a car drove slowly past, Miss Henderson's withered roses stalks still there, unaffected by the horror consuming my life. Was there a glint? I squinted, my eyes raw and tearing. Nothing. Just the blank windows of a house. 60 seconds. This was the longest minute of my life. Every nerve ending screamed, anticipating impact, anticipating the final brutal release. I hold my breath, bracing myself. I felt exposed, pathetic, a broken thing offering itself up for destruction. The minute crawled by, 60 agonizing seconds. But nothing happened. No crack of a rifle, no shattering glass, no searing pain of a bullet tearing through flesh. Just the distant sound of traffic and the relentless internal throb of my injuries. And then the phone rang, yet again. The sound was startling, cutting through the sudden deafening silence of the aftermath. I scrambled back from the window, collapsing onto the floor, my broken leg twisting with a jolt of fresh agony. I fumbled for the receiver I'd left on the carpet near the bedroom door. "Alexander," the distorted voice had said. There was no triumph, no amusement, just the flat, synthetic tone I'd come to know and expect. I couldn't speak, just gasped, tears mixing with sweat and grime on my face. "Alexander, the test is complete," the voice had stated. "You understand now. Obedience, submission, the fragility of what you hold dear." "Why?" I finally choked out, the word raw and desperate. "Why did you do this?" Why does the predator chase the prey, Alexander? Why does the scientist observe the specimen for the insight, for the control? You have proven illuminating, Alexander. My mind reeled. Insight? Control? All this for some sick, twisted experiment? "It is over, Alexander," the voice continued. "For now, the line should be restored shortly, and you are free to seek assistance." Free? I looked at my useless hand and my grotesquely angled leg. Free to call for help and explain what? What, that a disembodied voice made me burn my father's book, shave my head, burn my hand, and break my own leg? Who the hell would believe me? "Don't disappoint me now, Alexander," the voice added, and this time there was a chilling hint of a smile in the distortion. "We may yet require further data in the future." And then the line went dead. Silence. Absolute crashing silence. The world outside returned to its indifferent normalcy. I lay there, shivering, for a long time. The internet flickered back on for the first time. The familiar Wi-Fi symbol appeared on my phone screen. Then the cable TV hummed to life. Finally. I could call 911. I could tell them everything, but the thought felt futile. Impossible. The evidence was just me, a broken, unreliable narrator. And the voice? It knew everything about me, where I lived, my name, my vulnerabilities. It knew how to cut me off from the world, how to push my buttons, how to make me inflict unspeakable pain to myself. Slowly, agonizingly, I reached for my cell phone with my good hand. My thumb hovered over the contacts list. My parents, my few friends, the police. But what was the point? He was out there, whoever he was, watching, perhaps waiting? And I was here, crippled and alone, a ruined experiment left in its cage. Instead of calling for help, I opened a search engine, burned hand throbbing, a constant reminder of what had just happened. My broken leg lay twisted beneath me, a monument to my forced compliance. I searched at the blank search bar. What do you search for when your reality had been systematically dismantled? For when you've been broken and reshaped by an unseen force? I typed, one-handed, the words appearing slowly and awkwardly on the screen. "How to disappear."